to tell or show the American people that government agencies are not cooperating on disclosure. The United States military actually admits it. Yes, we have investigated. We have collected things, signals from outside this world. And we're trying to get the government to open up on these projects that won't be classified or not classified in the middle. The Red Book was a human compendium of information derived from the United States government's investigation and collection of data on extraterrestrial contacts. Hello, my name is Richard Doty. I'm a former intelligence officer with the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Today, we're going to discuss the Aviary, the unofficial UFO working group. It was formed in the late 1970s. A small group consisting of U.S. government officials with high security clearances. Everyone within the Aviary were government employees with a security clearance. The object of this group was to coordinate data regarding UFOs, or UAPs they call them now, and ET contacts. Everything that we knew, or everything that we wanted to know regarding UFOs was filtered through various government agencies back then, primarily the Defense Intelligence Agency. But we were an unofficial working group that was trying to put one foot ahead of the other and keep track of the information that was being collected. And we also wanted to form an alliance with the MJ-12 group, working either alongside them or working with them. The Aviary always met in secure facilities, such as a CIA safe house in Vienna, Virginia, or other facilities around the eastern part of the United States. Most of the meetings were in the east, with the exception of a couple that were in Dayton, Ohio, and one in Vermont. The group was led by the former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, and we'll talk about him later. Let's talk about who they are, who the members of the Aviary were. Blue Jay, code name for Dr. Christopher Green, neurologist and former CIA officer. I worked with Kit Green in Europe for many years. Kit Green was an expert when it comes to ET relationship with medicine. Then we had Siegel, code name for Dr. Bruce Maccabee, a PhD research scientist in optical physics and laser weapons with the United States Navy. Pelican was Ron Pandolfi. He was a CIA Deputy Director for the Division of Science and Technology. Next one, codename Owl, was Dr. Hal Puthoff, a physicist with the Institute for Advanced Studies at Austin. He was former U.S. Navy physicist. He was known, or best known, for being involved with remote viewing. He worked for the SDI Stanford in the early 1970s and developed techniques along with other experts in remote viewing. Penguin was a code name for John Alexander, Colonel in the United States Army Intelligence. He worked for the Security Command of the United States Army. He retired and then worked for Los Alamos. Hawk was Ernie Kellerstrauss, a former employee of the Armed Forces Institute of Technology at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Ernie had intimate knowledge of what occurred at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in the 50s and 60s. Chickadee was Commander C.B. Scott Jones, a PhD, U.S. Navy retired, former officer with the Office of Navy Intelligence, and the former aide to the late Senator Claiborne Pell. Next, we had Condor. Condor, code name for Captain Robert Collins, U.S. Air Force scientist involved in UFO research at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Next on the list was the real Falcon. People always thought that I was the Falcon. I was codenamed the Falcon. Heard that saw that even some people on the internet still talk about Richard Doty as the Falcon. Well, I wasn't Falcon. The former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, Richard Helms, was the Falcon. My code name was Sparrow. Richard Dick Doty. And Dick is what some of the people within the aviary called me. My father, growing up, would always call me Dick rather than Rich. Then we had Chicken Little. Chicken Little was Dan Smith, a civilian UFO research and volunteer liaison among sources with the CIA. Dan was the only one within the aviary that didn't have a security clearance at first, but he later obtained one. And there were other frequent guests that we invited or others invited to our meetings. And these guests included Major Ed Dames, who was a remote viewer, Admiral Bobby Inman, former director of the DIA, or Defense Intelligence Agency, John McCone, former CIA director, William Colby, former CIA director, and employees of science companies or civilian companies, such as Dr. Eric Davis and even Robert Bigelow. These are some of the members that we invited. What's the objectives of the aviary? Well, to coordinate data, see the big picture, analyze the meaning of UFOs and extraterrestrial contact with Earth, use this knowledge to gain access to additional information on a hyper-secret Majestic 12 working group. Now, did we ever work or have meetings with the MJ-12 working group? No. We coordinated, had liaison with them, but we never actually worked with them. They never attended our meetings. So the names of the members of the MJ-12 group were not officially known to us. But some members of the group, some of the scientists, some of the key officials within our working group, or the aviary, did know who the members of the MJ-12 group was. Now, the aviary gave themselves code names, but the story behind that is Robert Collins, one of the members of the group, had a friend and a colleague. I had a friend and a colleague named Bill Moore, although Bill was never a member of the aviary. Bill Moore had a friend by the name of Jamie Shandera, and they got together one night and knew who we were and named us, giving us those bird names. Why they did that, it was easier to keep track of us. And once we found out who we were as far as the bird names, we actually called ourselves those bird names when we had meetings. We developed policy and procedures for the group. We maintained absolute secrecy. And some of the people within the aviary had access to the Red Book. Now, what is the Red Book? The Red Book was a human compendium of information derived from the United States government's investigation and collection of data on extraterrestrial contacts from 1947 to present. Why 1947? The Red Book started the historical analysis or the chronological order of the United States government's involvement with UFOs beginning in 1947, or the Roswell case. The Roswell case, as most people know, was a crash of a UFO north of Roswell, actually near Corona, New Mexico. The official investigation by the United States government involved finding two crash sites initially in 1947, one near Corona, which contained the actual craft, the oval-shaped craft. The second one a little bit south, which contained a debris field. The debris field was the antenna off the crashed one near Corona. And then in 1949, we found another crash site west of Socorro, New Mexico, in the plains of San Augustine. And that would have been the second craft that crashed in New Mexico. From 1947 to present time, the collection of data was contained in the Red Book. And it was more or less a briefing book for key officials, especially the President of the United States. The Red Book is maintained and strictly controlled by MJ-12. Each aviary had a CIA C card, which gave them access to above top secret information, special access programs dealing with ET contacts, although no aviary member had authorization to conduct field operations except me. I was given the authority because I was an intelligence officer. I was given the authority to investigate things that the aviary needed investigated. And so I was the only one within the aviary that had investigative powers. Does the aviary exist today? Yes, it does. But in a completely different format. It's not connected to the government today or to any intelligence agencies. The aviary today conducts operations to prepare for universal disclosure. All members of current aviary, which calls themselves the Advanced Working Group, which I'm involved, are more open to the public and still coordinate activities with agencies, intelligence agencies, on the outside. Meaning, we don't go to the CIA headquarters or DIA headquarters at Bowling or NSA at Fort Meade or to OSI at Quantico. We are on the outside looking in. We have the ability to coordinate certain things with operatives within the intelligence community. Now, let's talk about disclosure. The hype right now is that at some point, maybe in the near future, we will have disclosure. There's two groups out there that I know of. One group led by Lou Elizondo. He's not an aviary member, never had been. He has a group that's trying to push disclosure. My group, which we call the Advanced Working Group, contains intelligence officers, some that are still within the government, and most are outside the government, and some that had been an aviary member before. Our objective is disclosure. We want disclosure just like everyone else wants disclosure. We want the truth about the United States government's involvement with UFOs, or UAPs as it's called now, or ET contacts made public. Now, is that feasible? Well, I think it is feasible in a way. It's not entirely practical because there's some information that the government wants to be held secret. And there's some information that will always be secret. Anything to do with technologies or anything to do with gathering intelligence, technical intelligence, through sources and methods will remain classified. And I'm for that. I don't want other countries, our nemesis, such as Russia, China, or North Korea, to gather our technology. So that part of the disclosure probably will never happen. But just the fact that we had been visited, we had contacts, and we have information and technology from outside this earth, that should be disclosed. So, how do we do that? Well, we have to convince a lot of people within the government that we are the ones, our working group are the ones that need to start the disclosure progress. Now, it actually started when the New York Times article came out in 2017 discussing incidents involving the USS Nimitz and USS Roosevelt, Navy UFO or UAP contacts. And over the years, there's been more information released. Just the fact that the United States government has investigated UFOs and UAPs has been released. The United States Space Force, which is a new branch of the United States military, actually admits it. Yes, we have investigated. We have collected things, signals from outside this world. We actually have photographed objects from outside this world. So our working group, our former aviary, we're trying to coordinate with U.S. Space Force, with the Department of Defense Inspector General's office, a way to do this. Now, is it going to be easy? Probably not. So far, we've ran across a lot of no's, meaning we ask for something, or we ask for some little disclosure project or a program. We'd write a plan for a program, a project, we present it, and they turn us down. Our backs are up against a wall. We've run into a lot of fences. We have to get over those fences. We have managed to get over a few of the fences. But for the most part, disclosure is going to be short and quick responses until the government opens up everything. And we're trying to do that. And we're trying to get the government to open up on these projects that won't be classified or not classified anymore. I had a conversation with the Department of Defense Inspector General's office, a telephone conversation. I learned a lot from them. They learned a lot from me. In fact, during one particular telephone conversation, they talked to me about an incident that happened back in the 80s. When they were cryptically trying to explain this case to me, I immediately realized that was one of my cases. And I told the person on the phone, I said, "That's my case." He said, "Yeah, your name's on here." I said, "Well, then you know what it's about." He said, "No, I don't." I said, "Well, just read it." He said, "I can't, so I'll redact it." I had a big laugh over that. I said, "Wait a minute, you're the government, you're the Department of Defense Inspector General's office, and you can't get a clear report from another agency that's not redacted?" And his response was, "Yes, we're having problems getting information from other agencies." That's key right there to tell or show the American people that government agencies are not cooperating on disclosure. If you can't get, even if you have access to special programs, which this particular report would have required, I knew what the report was. Once he told me the file number, once he told me the time frame, I knew exactly what it was. And here I am on the phone, and I can't discuss classified information on the phone, and he can't receive classified information on the phone. I'm in New Mexico. He's in Washington, D.C. And so I said, well, I would have to sit down in person and explain to you this investigation. But I thought, isn't it odd that he can't get a clear report? But that clues you into what's wrong with the disclosure projects. Governments, agencies are not cooperating. The national security agencies not cooperating with the Central Intelligence Agency. The CIA is not cooperating with the DOD. DOD is not cooperating with the Army, so forth and so on and so on. And there's agencies within the government, particularly the United States Air Force, that don't want disclosure. The United States Space Command or Space Force wants disclosure, but they want to do it their way. So this is a problem that they have within the United States government, and we have outside a civilian working group trying to get disclosure to the public. So I hope this allows the viewers to understand the complexity of disclosure, how we as a civilian working group, the Aviary and now the Advanced Working Group, are working to try to get disclosure to the public. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I'm Richard Doty. Until next time, thank you.
If you liked this video and you want to see more amazing content, go ahead and check out the next video on our channel.